There are words traveling toward you right now, carried on someone's trembling breath, rehearsed in midnight silence, written and deleted 1,000 times. You've felt them approaching, haven't you? Like thunder before rain, like the pull of tide before the wave breaks. Something in the air between you has changed, grown heavier, more electric, more inevitable. The way they look at you has shifted, their eyes holding yours a heartbeat longer than friendship requires, searching for something they're terrified to name. This isn't your imagination painting stories in empty space. This is your soul recognizing what's coming before your mind can speak it. Someone is about to cross the distance they've been maintaining, to shatter the careful silence they've built around feelings too vast to contain anymore. They've been carrying your name in their chest like a secret, wearing their longing like a second skin, loving you in the margins of every moment you've shared. But the weight of unspoken truth has finally grown unbearable. The dam is breaking. The confession that seemed impossible is becoming inevitable. And here's what your heart needs to understand. This isn't happening because their feelings suddenly appeared. It's happening because they finally found the courage to stop hiding what's been burning inside them all along. The moment is here. The truth you've been waiting for without knowing you were waiting. It's finally coming home to you. You've wondered, haven't you, why someone who feels this deeply chose silence over honesty, distance over risk, watching over reaching? Let me tell you what fear does to a heart that loves too much too soon. It builds walls disguised as wisdom. It calls hesitation protection. It convinces the bravest souls that silence is safer than shattering. They stayed quiet not because you didn't matter, but because you mattered so profoundly that the thought of losing you felt like losing oxygen. Every day, they chose your presence in small doses over the gamble of asking for everything. They memorized the sound of your laugh, collected the moments you smiled at them like precious things, built entire universes from the accidental brush of your hand against theirs. But love like that doesn't stay contained forever. It grows in the dark, roots deepening, branches reaching, until one day the weight of it cracks through concrete. Something shifted recently, something that made staying silent more painful than speaking could ever be. Maybe they watched you slip away, saw you becoming someone who didn't need them anymore. Maybe they realized that time isn't infinite, that windows close, that someday becomes never if you wait too long. Or maybe, just maybe, they looked at themselves in the mirror and couldn't recognize the person who'd been living half a truth for so long. The breaking point has been reached. The equation has flipped. Now the fear of you never knowing outweighs the fear of you saying no. Your body knew before your mind did. The quickening of your pulse when they entered a room. The way silence between you felt full instead of empty. The strange ache when they pulled away. The inexplicable completeness when they stayed close. You've been reading poetry written in glances, decoding messages hidden in the spaces between words, feeling the weight of everything they weren't saying, pressing against everything you weren't asking. Those moments you thought were coincidence, they were intention. The text that came exactly when you needed them. The way they remembered details you'd forgotten you'd shared. The questions designed not for answers but for connection. For permission to stay in your world a little longer. You've watched them become two different people, closer than distant, present than gone. And you've wondered if you imagined the warmth, if you invented the meaning, but you didn't. What you sensed was real. What you felt was their heart trying to speak a language their mouth couldn't form yet. And now that language is about to find words, about to become sound instead of silence, confession instead of question. Everything you've been feeling, all the almosts and maybes and what ifs, they're about to take shape. They're about to become something you can hold, something you can answer, something that transforms possibility into choice. The waiting is ending, the truth is arriving, and it sounds like your name whispered with a tenderness you've only imagined until now. What's about to happen will change everything between you, and you deserve to meet that moment from your strongest self. Your clearest heart, your most honest truth. Because this confession isn't just about what they feel. It's about what you discover you've been feeling in the shadows, in the maybe, in the safety of never having to decide. If this message is resonating in your chest right now, if you feel the truth of it settling into your bones, don't let what comes next pass you by. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because understanding what this confession really means, how to hold it without breaking yourself or them, what your heart needs before you answer, that's what we're diving into next. The second half of this message reveals the hidden gift in their timing, the power that's shifting to you, and the one question you must ask yourself before you respond. This is where clarity lives. This is where your truth is waiting, and you deserve to meet their confession with the full force of your own understanding. Now, let's talk about why their timing, as complicated as it feels, is actually the universe's mercy. Timing has never been the enemy. Fear has. And right now, in this exact moment, their fear has finally met something stronger. The unbearable cost of you never knowing how deeply you're loved. Something broke their resolve recently, cracked the careful armor they'd built around their heart. Maybe they sensed you drifting, not in anger, but in self-preservation, choosing yourself in ways that made them realize you weren't waiting anymore. Or maybe they watched someone else make you smile, and jealousy became the mirror that showed them what they'd been denying. Either way, they've reached the point where regret became more terrifying than rejection, where the thought of you walking through life never knowing what you meant to them felt like a betrayal of something sacred. This confession is coming because their soul couldn't carry the weight of unspoken truth anymore without collapsing, because loving you in silence started poisoning every other moment, turning joy hollow, making distance from you unbearable and closeness torture. They're not confessing to win you. They're confessing to free themselves from the prison of pretending, to honor what they feel by finally letting it breathe, to give you the choice they've been making for you by staying silent. This is courage dressed as vulnerability. This is love choosing integrity over comfort. And regardless of what you feel in return, this moment, this brave crossing of distance, it deserves to be witnessed, to be held gently, to be honored for what it is. Someone loving you enough to risk everything by telling the truth. When the confession comes, it won't arrive polished and perfect. It will stumble. Pause. Reach for words that feel too small for what they're trying to say. You'll hear their voice shake. Watch them search your face for safety. Feel them trying to make themselves smaller to fit through the door they're finally opening. They might laugh nervously, apologize for timing or awkwardness, build exit routes into their sentences like, "You don't have to say anything," or "I just needed you to know." But underneath the fumbling, underneath the fear management, you'll hear something unmistakable. The sound of a heart that's been holding its breath for too long finally exhaling. They'll tell you it's been longer than you think, that the feelings aren't new even if the words are. They'll probably try to explain what changed, what made them brave enough now, why they couldn't before. And in their voice, if you listen past the words, you'll hear every moment they wanted to reach for you and didn't. Every time they almost said something and swallowed it back. Every night they fell asleep with your name on their lips. This confession has been living in them like a second heartbeat. And now it's spilling out, messy and honest, and so achingly real you'll feel it in your chest before your ears fully process the words. Don't expect poetry. Expect truth. Raw, unfiltered. Vulnerable truth that sounds like coming home or like goodbye, depending on what your heart has been waiting to hear. In this moment, everything shifts. And the shift isn't what you think. It's not about who loves whom or who holds the power. It's about you finally having complete truth instead of fragments, clarity instead of questions, choice instead of confusion. For however long they stayed silent, you were operating in partial light, interpreting signals, wondering, hoping, or protecting yourself from hoping. But now the full picture is yours. Now you stand at a crossroads with your eyes open, with all the information, with the power to choose what this becomes based on what you actually feel, not what you think might be possible. This is the gift, not the confession itself, but the clarity it brings, the permission it gives you to stop wondering and start knowing, to honor what lives in your own heart without apology or explanation. You don't owe them love in return. You don't owe them a relationship. You don't owe them anything except the same honesty they're offering you. If your heart has been waiting for these words, if relief floods you at finally hearing what you've hoped for, then the path is clear and beautiful. If you don't feel the same, if the confession brings sadness instead of joy, that's equally valid, equally deserving of respect. And if you're unsure, if you need time to let your heart catch up to this new reality, that space is yours to take. What you cannot do is pretend out of kindness or guilt. Clean truth, even when it's hard, is the most loving thing you can offer someone who's been brave enough to give you theirs. Here's the deepest truth, the one your soul recognized the moment you started reading this message. You already know what's coming. You felt it building like storm clouds, sensed it in the shift of energy, recognized it in the space between you that's been growing smaller and more charged. Your intuition has been preparing you, whispering that change is coming, that truth is approaching, that a moment of choice is near. That's why this message found you. That's why you're still here, reading, feeling, remembering every sign you tried to rationalize away. You weren't imagining anything. You were reading the language of a heart that was learning how to speak, and now it's about to. Now the confession you've been sensing is about to take form, to become words you can hear, instead of energy you can only feel. What happens next is entirely yours to shape. You're not the person you were when they first started feeling this way. You've grown, changed, learned what you need and what you won't accept. So when their words reach you, receive them from that place, from the truth of who you are now, not who you were when the silence began. Someone is about to be brave enough to show you their heart. Now you get to be brave enough to honor your own, whatever it's telling you, however it responds. The truth, both theirs and yours, deserves to be spoken, to be witnessed, to be held with tenderness, even if it doesn't lead where they hope. Welcome to Psychology Routine. If this message helped you see what your heart already knew, subscribe and stay with us, because love, truth, and the courage to speak them, that's the most beautiful complexity human beings ever navigate. And you deserve to understand every layer of it.